All right, we're back to our lessons, class. This one shouldn't be too difficult. Um, let's see what we got here. We're going to be classifying triangles. We're in our triangle unit now. This is our first chapter, how to classify them. And it's going to be pretty basic, okay? So um, by default, if you have three acute angles, the triangle is going to be labeled an acute triangle. If at all you get one obtuse angle, and you cannot have more than one obtuse angle in a triangle, the triangle will be obtuse. Okay, so we're using common sense, obtuse triangle. If we get one right angle inside a triangle, that means that we have that little box, then this is a automatic right triangle. This guy we're going to see for quite some time, especially when we go into our trigonometry section, which is right in the first few weeks of January, maybe at the end of this 6 weeks. All right, if we have three congruent sides, and please pay attention to these marks, okay? If they all resemble, if they all look the same, then that means the angles are congruent. That means this is what's called, and it's like a mouthful. It's equiangular, equiangular. I don't know how you want to pronounce it. Equiangular triangle. That means all angles are equal. All right. So we're going to this, and I'm not sure if you ever were taught this. You should have been taught this in elementary. You being in pre-AP, that means I'm going to assume that somehow it was mentioned to you. Um, I'm going to tell you, you name a triangle by its vertices, or if you guys want the layman's terms, by the corners. Okay? So the triangles will always be named by the three corners. Also, you should have been told a triangle um, measures, if I spell correctly, 180 degrees. All three angles add up to 180. Okay? You need to know that. All right, so here we have, let's go with our first one, triangle CDE. I'm going to look at triangle CDE over here. C, D, E. So that's this triangle right here. That means we have this box. Automatically, this is 90 degrees. This is a right angle. So I'm going to say that triangle CDE is a right triangle. Then we go to triangle BCE. So we go to B, C, E. That's this one right here. That looks like obtuse right there. So I'm going to label this triangle as an obtuse triangle. Triangle ABE. Triangle ABE. We got these congruency marks. All three angles are congruent. So I'm going to call this equiangular. Go to B, D, E. Here we have B, D, E. We have an obtuse angle in there, so it is obtuse. It doesn't matter if the other ones are acute. As long as it has one obtuse angle, it is obtuse. Last one, we have CFE. So we have CFE. That has all acute angles. So I'm going to call this guy an acute triangle. So that's one way of classifying by the angles. Okay? So we classify by angles. If I ask you to classify by angles, I'm talking about obtuse, right, acute, or equiangular. Now we're going to classify by sides. Okay? So if all sides are congruent, pay attention to these marks. Then this is what's called an equilateral triangle. If two sides are congruent, notice this and that one, isosceles triangle. If none of the sides, no congruent sides, nothing is marked congruent, you don't know if they're all the same, this is called scaling. So if we go off, here we go, triangle JKM, let's classify by sides. So we're doing JKM. Nope, none of these guys are marked congruent to each other. Pieces are, but that doesn't mean the entire sides are. So if none of them are marked congruent, I'm going to call this scaling. We go to KLN, KLN, this triangle right here. I notice this and these two are marked. That's two sides already congruent. The third one is not, so I'm talking isosceles. Last but not least, we have JKN. So we have JKN. Notice that mark, that mark, that mark. All three are the same, all three are equal. So this is an equilateral. All right. So I think in your homework you have something similar to this, where you have to classify by both, and you can, whichever is easier to do first. Let's look at number 9. I'm not going to do all of these. Number 9, I see two congruent sides, so we know for a fact it is isosceles. And then I see the 90 degrees, so it's a right. So isosceles, right. Let's do number 14. Here we have two congruent sides, so automatically I'm going to call this isosceles. That's by side. The angle is obtuse. it's an isosceles obtuse or obtuse isosceles. Okay, so here we are in this section now. What's important is going to be how well can you read direction? You have to understand what's happening in the picture. So it starts off by saying that you have a segment, PR, bisecting an angle, SRT. So you go to the picture, it tells you that PR right here is cutting this angle in half, SRT. All right? I'm expecting you to understand if that's the case, if this angle is 30 degrees, we've just stated that this line right here is cutting this big one in half. So if this piece is 30, then this one also has to be 30 degrees. I'm going to label it 30. Now, let's look at the rest. It says U is the midpoint of RT. So here we have R, here we have T. U is the midpoint. If it is the midpoint, that means that it cuts RT in half, perfect, exact pieces. So that's 8. This has to be 8. Please do this as you're working out the problem so you understand what you're working with and the information becomes clearer as you go to answer your question. All right, so now let's go and see if we can answer some of these questions. Classify the triangle by its angles and its sides. Okay, so we're going to do both. If we want, we can go with the angles first. So let's look at the first one. We're looking at UQR. So we have U, Q, R. So we're looking at this guy right here. All right. That triangle already has one obtuse. So it's obtuse. Now we're going to classify it by the side. So by angles, and let's put the descriptions here. It's either going to be acute, obtuse, right, or equiangular. The sides, it's either going to be equilateral, isosceles, scalene. Okay, so it's either one of those. All right, so if we're looking at UQR, I notice these two are equal. That means it is isosceles. All right, let's move on to the next. Next one is RST, number 16. So we move on to over here. Let's go to RST. So we're going to go by angles first. 60 degrees, 60 degrees. If I add those two together, 30 and 30, 60 degrees. So all three angles are equal. So this is going to be equiangular. Now, if I label it by the sides, obviously if it's equal on all angles, this side is 16. If I add these two together, it's 16. If I add these two together, it's 16. So all sides are equal. So it is both equiangular and equilateral. Let's do two more. Let's do PRT. Okay. Let's see. Let's erase some of this right here. So we're looking at PRT. We have P, we have R, and we have T. So right off the bat, here we have PRT. Sixty degrees. This is 16. This is 16 right here. Well, we have a complete obtuse angle right here. So it's up, not that one. We got obtuse. These two sides are equal. Obtuse isosceles. And you keep going. All right, let's go down to the bottom part. Classifying triangles in the coordinate plane. Well, that means you have to understand these, okay? We're going to classify by sides. This isn't going to deal with angle measures. It's just going to deal by sides, which means we have to find the distances, okay? You're going to have triangle. Okay, I'm just going to draw one, okay? That means you have to find, you'll be given a coordinate of each one of the corners. You'll have to find the distance from here to there. How do you do that using a coordinate system? You use the distance formula. All right. So the distance formula, just so you know, it's the differences of the x's squared plus the differences in the y's squared. You can do x1, x2, y1, y2. So let's erase this guy. All right, guys, shortcut for this stuff. We have a triangle, J, K, L. This follows the order of the alphabet. So JK, that's one side. KL, that's another side. And then finally, J to L, that's a third side. So you're going to have three different ones. It's a triangle, so three different sides. The distance of J to K. If we use the distance formula, so x1 is -7 minus x2, which is -9, squared, plus -7, which is y1 minus 1 squared. Square root -7 plus 9 squared plus -8 squared. And this ends up being square root of 68. The distance of K to L. So we have -9, and I'm just going to do the shortcut, plus 1 squared plus 1 squared. Square root of 68. Then we go the distance of, we can do J to L or L to J, you decide. It's J to L, so we're going to do the difference of -7 plus 1 squared -7 plus 1 squared. Square root of 72. All right, two sides equal. So if I have two sides are equal, I look at the classifications, and the classifications are either equilateral, isosceles, or scaling. This one is isosceles. I'll do more in class. Let's jump to the algebra part. All right, solving things in algebra, this means that you're going to have to read, guys. You'll have to read the directions first, because it's going to tell you exactly how to create your equation. ABC is an equilateral triangle. Right off the bat, you know all sides are equal. Solve for both x and y. Well, if all sides are equal, that means that these two are equal, these two are equal, and those are equal. Because I have a y and I have an x here, I'm not going to be able to do much here, so I'm not going to worry about that. But both of these can be set up as different equations to solve for either x or y. So let's do the x first. So we know that 3x plus 1 is equal to 49. Move the 1 across by subtracting it. So I got 3x is equal to 48. And then we have x after you divide is 16. Then we do the y. Again, that those two sides are equal, so we have 18y minus 41 is equal to 49. Move the 41 across by adding it to both sides. That leaves me with 18y is equal to 90. Once you divide, you find out that this is 5. Again, pay attention to the directions before you even start. Don't start guessing, okay? Because if you look at number 4, it's already telling you this is an isosceles triangle. Isosceles means two sides are equal. They tell you, make sure you can read my handwriting, what two sides are equal. They're telling you that DE and EF, this side and this side are equal. Oh, that looks like an equation. Find x, that's one thing you got to do, and then measure the measure of each side, which means you're going to have to substitute. So here we have, first we got to solve for x, but because it's isosceles, this is our first equation. 8x minus 13 is equal to 5x plus 17. I'm going to move the 13 across, leaving me with 8x is equal to 5x plus 30. And then we're going to move the 5x across by subtracting it, leaving me with 3x is equal to 30. X is equal to 10. Okay, so we did the first thing. Check, we solved for x. Now we have to find all sides. Because it's isosceles, I already know those two sides are equal, so I only need to find out one of them. So let's find out DE is equal to 8x minus 13. X is equal to 10. So that's 8 times 10 minus 13, which is 67. That means that EF is equal to 67. Now we need to find out DF. You know, X is 10, so DF is equal to 31. Number 5 is exactly the same. Number 3, number 2, both of those are equilateral, so it doesn't matter which one you use. Notice how it solves for x. I think these are asking you to measure the other each side. So after you solve for x, you're going to substitute. It doesn't matter who you want to set equal to. You can set those two equal, you can set those two equal, or you can set those two equal. It doesn't matter. They're all going to give you the same answer. Then you substitute. Let's move down here where we have our word problems. This means that you have lack of pictures. You'll have to draw your own triangle. They tell you how the triangle. So if you have to, Draw your triangle. I mean, I know not all of us are Picassos, but you have P, Q, R. It tells you PQ is 18x plus 1. QR, 24x minus 17. And then PR is 15x plus 10. Pay attention to what the directions say. This is equilateral, so all the sides are equal. Find x and the measure of each side. Okay, so for shiitake mushrooms and giggles, those are equal, those are equal, those are equal. I'm going to use to solve for x, I'm going to use these guys right here. So we have 18x plus 1 equals 15x plus 10. It doesn't matter who I would have used, any two. I'm going to move the 1 across by subtracting it from both sides. So I have 18x is equal to 15x plus 9. Then I'm going to move the 15x across by subtracting it. So I get 3x is equal to 9. Yay! Divide x is 3. We're done with the hard part. The rest is just substitution. And it's easy. It's equilateral. Only have to substitute into 1. Because it's equilateral. They're all the same sides. So I'm going to substitute into that one. Easy enough. 15x plus 10. This is PR. That's 15 times 3 plus 10. So I know that PR is equal to, that's 45, so that's 55. That means that PQ equals 55. That means that QR is equal to 55. That's your answer. Again, the setup is all in the directions. Draw first, so you know what you're dealing with. All right, for homework, let's see, what do I want to give you? Let's see, we have 15 problems. Let's go with, let's give you 6 problems for this. Let's do 1, 4, 6, 9, 10, 14. So your homework is going to be 1, 4, 6, 9, 10, and 14. I will see you guys mañana.